On July 1st, 2026, India quietly killed one of its most iconic welfare programs. And most people didn't even notice. Here's what actually changed and why it matters for hundreds of millions of rural workers. MGNREGA. The law that guaranteed 100 days of paid work to rural households every year is gone. Repealed. In its place is the VBG-RAMG Act, and on the surface, it sounds like a straight-up upgrade. Workers now get 125 guaranteed wage days a year instead of 100. That's 25 extra days of income, which at current wage rates could add somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 rupees annually to a rural household's earnings. For a family already living right on the edge, that is not small change. So far so good, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Because the real story isn't how many days workers get. It's who actually pays for them. Under the old MGNREGA system, the central government in Delhi covered 100% of wage costs. Think of it like a fully sponsored meal. States just had to show up and serve. But under the new act, that changes dramatically. For most states, the funding split becomes 60-40. The center pays 60% of wages, and states now have to chip in the remaining 40%. Northeastern and Himalayan states get a more generous 90-10 split, and union territories without their own legislature still get full central funding. But for the majority of states, this is a brand new financial burden they simply didn't carry before. And it doesn't stop at wages. Material costs, the money that goes into building rural roads, water conservation structures, all that physical infrastructure, were previously shared with the center covering 75%. Now in most states, that material share lands squarely on the state government. So here's the honest bottom line. The new act promises more days of work on paper, and that 125-day guarantee looks great on an infographic. But the financial architecture underneath has fundamentally shifted. Whether workers actually see those 125 days depends entirely on whether their state government has the budget, and frankly, the political will, to co-fund it. More days guaranteed means nothing if the state can't afford to show up, so the promise is bigger. But so is the risk. Next, we're going to look at which states are actually equipped to handle this shift, and which ones might quietly drop the ball. So now the real question. Who actually benefits from all of this, and who quietly gets left behind? Every big policy reform has winners, and it has fine print. This one is no different. Workers in states with strong digital infrastructure and healthy finances. They genuinely stand to gain. Full 125-day guarantee, an extra 6,000 to 8,000 rupees a year, better planned local projects built around community-driven blueprints. That is a real upgrade. The central government also wins. It has quietly shifted from covering 100% of wages to just 60% in most states, while branding the whole thing as a modernization and climate story. Smart optics. Then there is a quieter winner most people are not talking about. The tech ecosystem. Face authentication, eKYC, digital verification across hundreds of millions of workers. That is a serious pipeline of demand for IT vendors and local consultants. Someone is cashing in on the rollout itself. But here is where it gets uncomfortable. As of May 2026, a LipTech India report flagged that 115.8 million workers, 45.4% of all registered workers, had incomplete eKYC. Nearly half. And in a system where digital verification is now mandatory, incomplete eKYC does not mean a delay. It means a wage lockout. Completely shut out. The losers here are workers in states with low digital access, stretched budgets, and weak administrative capacity. For them, the 125-day promise exists on paper and pretty much nowhere else. The reform does not just create winners and losers. It widens the gap between states that can actually execute and states that cannot. Basically, so the architecture of the reform looks solid. But the delivery, that is a completely different story. And that is exactly what we are getting into next. So we've covered what's changing on the surface. But here's the part that nobody's really talking about. And honestly, it's the most important part of this whole reform. The old system was demand-driven. A worker shows up, asks for work, the government is legally obligated to provide it and fund it. Think of it like a restaurant where you order what you want and the kitchen has to cook it, no matter how many people walk in. The new system flips that entirely. It's a normative budget model, meaning the government pre-allocates a fixed pot of money based on projected demand. Once that runs out, work stops, even if workers still need it. It's like switching to a fixed menu lunch with limited servings. Show up late, or if demand spikes higher than expected, the kitchen shuts down. That's a fundamental philosophical shift, from an entitlement-based guarantee to a budget-constrained one. And then there's the material cost cap, capped at 40% at the district level, which means no matter how badly a region needs infrastructure, spending hits a ceiling. For workers in areas hit by drought, floods, or crop failures, where demand for wage employment spikes hard, that ceiling is a serious problem. The 125-day guarantee is only real if the normative budget actually matches what people on the ground need. If it doesn't, the most distressed workers lose out first. So what determines whether this works? Three things. How fast states clear the eKYC backlog for 115.8 million workers, whether fiscally stretched state governments can actually sustain their new 40% co-funding commitment, and whether budget allocations are built around real rural distress, not just historical averages. More days on paper is progress. But a guarantee is only as strong as the system behind it. And right now, that system has some serious gaps to close before July 2026's promise reaches the people who need it most. Follow us for more updates like this. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and X.